Yeah, I know, right? Welcome back to IPA. We'll keep it real and raw with my boy Taghi.
What's up?
You want to introduce yourself to the people, let them know what you do, what you want?
Taghi. I'm just an artist for real. A lot of different lanes and shit. You know, shit. You know, art. You know, clothes and shit. Do a little music and shit.
You make music?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta play some of my shit. I should have played it in the whip.
I didn't know that.
Sure. You gotta, damn, I'm gonna just wait till after.
Yeah, nah, well, because usually after like the interviews, if you make music or something, I'll like play it at the end and shit.
Oh, I ain't on that level yet.
Yeah.
I ain't on the interview plug level yet.
Yeah.
I'm on it though.
So where you from? Like, tell me about your...
I was born in Gary. Then shit. Raised mostly like from 1 to 5, Portage and Miller, like, cause you know the shit is like right next to each other. So like Portage and Miller. Then 5 niggas moved to Maryville. Then ever since like 5, it's just been Maryville for real. Off 73rd. Okay. I've been living off 73rd like since I was 5.
Damn. So what kind of kid were you in school? Was you like
younger? I wasn't like the most, you know, I wasn't never a troublemaker, but like, and I'm still this way, like, I don't know, I just ain't always go with the grain. I just you can't just tell me anything and I'm gonna just do it. Like, and that's not to say like I'm even like being, like I'm not in class like talking back to teachers all day or none of that, but like, I wasn't the one that the teacher was finna pick on because they know that I'm gonna say something back.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not a step over. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that was reflected a lot though in like my younger years. But like around like 3rd, 4th grade, I remember like a lot of people in school was getting like held back and shit. Mm-hmm. And that on top of that, I think my grades started getting kind of like, I don't know. I don't really recall like what exactly it was, but I remember significantly like 3rd, 4th grade when I started realizing like, all right, like you gotta learn how to blend in, you know?
Yeah, especially like, when it comes to like schoolwork and shit, cause like.
And I wasn't ever the best with schoolwork. I ain't really, you know.
I mean, honestly, like, and it's crazy because when I was in college, I had learned that a lot of schoolwork is more so about time management than it is actually being smart. Like being smart, I got you. Hold on.
No, we good.
No, that's cool. I got you. I got a little ass strict thing. But being intelligent is just like learning, like being able to memorize a lot of shit and just bring off facts and shit. But like being able to get yourself through school, all you gotta do is just know how to manage your time and just do like if you take like 2 hours out of the day to just devote that time to doing something, doing schoolwork, you'll be fine.
And I was a good ass student though. Like I was a good ass student. You're not gonna get too much out of me in class. Like I do my work and shit. Like,
what was your best subject?
Art, for sure.
Art.
I remember back in kindergarten doing my cousin art projects in class. Like I'm doing both art shit. Yeah. Literally. Like I remember that like precisely, bro. Yeah, it was definitely art. And I started like in math like middle school, but when I got to high school, I put myself in advanced classes on some like. I told you, I'm just against the grain, like, you know, on some little different shit, think I'm just challenging myself. And that shit whooped me, bro. Like, that shit made me not really like math class. And the teacher was an asshole, like, she on bullshit all day, strict. You know how it be like, especially in this Maryville, so like, it's hella white students in the class.
Shit, I went to Hoover, so I already know.
Yeah, and the teacher white, I'm you know.
So, it's all good.
For sure.
Because I had that same experience for a while at Hobart until probably like my junior years when it started to get a lot more integrated with different races and stuff, and it was a lot more black kids, a lot more Hispanic kids, you know, like. But I definitely understand what you mean. It's kind of like where you really feel that shit is history class when slavery, when they get to talk about slavery and shit, and it's like everybody looking at your ass.
No, it was hella black kids at Maryville though. I said like it's hella like Maryville really like I think it's a lot more black people. It seemed like, but it probably not like logistically and shit, but it feel like it's a lot more black people.
I mean, it's probably if it's not more, then it's like probably like a good ratio, like damn near probably like almost equal,
Yeah.
like 40-60 or some shit.
No doubt.
So what was middle school like? Did you play any sports or anything?
Middle school. Yeah, I played basketball and what? I ain't slow enough. What grade is middle school?
So that's like, at
Like
least for
fifth?
me, that was like, we went to middle school from 6th through 8th.
Cause Maryville like elementary, then they go intermediate, then they go.
Yeah, intermediate is
Oh
like
no,
7th and 8th grade, right?
Yeah. No. Intermediate is 5th and 6th. Middle school 7 and 8. Yeah, on some different shit.
Yeah, we just had
4 schools like
1 through 5, then 6 through 8, then 9 through 12. But damn, so what? Like, how was that? Because I know that at that point in time, was that when you were kind of like really getting into your artistic bag?
Hell yeah, like I'm getting into like Pharrell and them. Like this one,
yeah.
I'm like, cause you gotta think, what age is a motherfucker in 7th grade?
I think like 11 and 12.
Okay, 11.
And then 13 is like, 8th grade is like 13, and then freshman year is like 14.
Okay, so yeah. So like, that's around the time when niggas, cause that's what 2011, 2012, 2013.
Mm-hmm.
Like shit popping around then, especially like streetwear and shit.
Yeah.
Like bro, shit. Like really.
And that was low key when like the drill scene was starting to kind of come into effect too.
Hell yeah.
More so in high school, but it was still.
And you know we
like,
right by Chicago, so like we going to school with motherfuckers that stay in Chicago. So it's like, you know.
Bro, the craziest part is like, I remember when the drill scene was really like up and coming and shit, and like it was like I had a homie that loved drill music, and he would listen to the most obscure drill niggas. Like these niggas would be. They would be the niggas beefing with the niggas that are beefing with dirt. You know what I'm saying? People removed type shit. But he used to always be trying to show me like all these new songs and shit. And I was just like, bro, honestly, my head's starting to hurt. These niggas just screaming on the mic and shit.
So, I ain't even gonna lie, I wasn't even really listening to like a lot of drill shit other than I was only listening to Herb. Like that was my favorite artist from like middle school, really through high school for real. Like Herb really was my favorite rapper. But other than Herb and like Dirt and shit, like I was bumping Chief Keef and shit, but like I wasn't one of the ones that was listening to it just on the flat. Like I would listen to it like before basketball games and shit. You know, like that was just a type of vibe that. But I think it's just more so because of like, you know, my upbringing wasn't really like, don't really relate a lot to that. So like it was never really something, you know.
I feel you. I mean, so like going into high school, were you still hooping?
Yeah, I tried out 7th grade. I got cut in 7th grade. I tried out in 8th grade. I made the team and shit. Then I'm trying to think. Freshman year I made the team, and then sophomore year I got cut. Junior year and shit, got cut again. Then shit, senior year I went and played at a private school and shit, and like Griffith. Bro, it's funny though. Like the school I was playing at, it was like, bro, that shit was little as hell, bro. And I really went there to get my grades right too. Yeah. For real. Cause my GPA had dropped like for real in high school, like around senior year. Yeah. And I gotta, cause I'm trying to go to college and shit, so like I gotta get my GPA up. Niggas transfer senior year, play ball at that school shit, then transfer back to Maryville to graduate with my bro. Senior year was tight though. Senior year was really tight. Like I fuck with senior year. That shit was tight. Cause we was like kind of like a traveling team at the school I went and played at. So like we going to colleges playing. I'm like shit, niggas ain't even doing this at the Ville. Fuck it. True. Like I'm fucking with it. Like
true.
Go back to the Ville, graduate, go to prom, all that senior, all the shit.
Did you end up going to 2 proms since you was going to 2 schools?
Hell no, I only went to prom senior year. Hell yeah, at Maryville.
I never went to prom.
That shit was cool.
I wanted to go, but I got played. My senior year my junior year I got played. My senior year I ended up getting put on Form 16 because they caught me smoking and shit while I was playing football. So they was drug testing at Hoover. So yeah, they ended up catching my black ass. But Damn, so once you got out of high school, did you end up going to college, or was that when you kind of started focusing more of your time into your into designing and shit?
After high school and shit, niggas, I went to IUN for 2 years, then I just dropped out for it, cause really, like literally, I dropped my first T-shirt the day I graduated. Yeah, actually, I dropped my first shirt then, and then so ever since I graduated, really, I've been like, and even then, like I was just putting shit on T-shirts that I was designing on the iPad and shit. I was just putting shit on T-shirts selling it. But like I say, when I dropped out, it really like that's when I really started like really focusing on the clothes, like on the serious tip, cause I had a decent little job and shit from like. It wasn't the year it was like the year after I graduated, so that's 2019 to 2020. And then 2020 I quit my job and that's when I dropped out. And after that I've been on, you know, like doing my shit.
Yeah.
So that's probably when I started getting into the clothing shit for real, like 2020, after I really dropped out and really start looking at shit.
Have you always had the same brand, or did you like start to revise it, or like when? So have you always stuck with the same dream since you graduated? Like mindset always still been the same, or has it like have you kind of grown with it also?
I feel like for the most part, yeah, it's always been the same. Just like as far as what I want out of it and shit, but like I feel like the route kind of, and still changing for real, it kind of been changing, because like at the beginning it was more so, I came up looking at like, for real, and like, you know, like that era and shit, so I'm trying to apply that to my shit and try to like move how these niggas moving, but then after a while it's just like, I'm starting to see my own vision in my own lane, so it's just like sometimes like, and that still be happening, like switch approaches and shit, but as far as what I want out of it and the vision, the grand scheme of things, like all of that shit the same, though, and been the same.
Did you ever want to like have a team with it, or did you always see it as something that you wanted for yourself that you could do by yourself?
At the beginning of the shit I was doing at the beginning, I knew I could manage myself, but now with shit getting bigger, I'm seeing the importance of having a team. But I always had a lot of friends and family like involved in my shit, not even if they got a title or something or a certain role, but I always had some motherfuckers involved in it that's close to me. So I always feel like I had a team from the beginning.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah. That's good too, developing and establishing a network. Like you forget, like I think a lot of people forget when they're first starting out in their own entrepreneurship venture that your family is a good resource for you. You know what I'm saying? Those are people who know you that are willing to support you out just the love itself. So it's like, that's a good place to start in terms of like, even if you're like trying to sell something or something, like your family's gonna believe in whatever you're pushing more so than like shit, like most of your friends and shit, realistically.
Yeah.
And so what, like, how did you create the name? Like, what does FEU stand for?
FEU stand for everyday use. And at first, my first shit was 1,000 though, and shit. Really, my Instagram name, I used to have my shit 1K, like that was at the end of Taghi. It was Taghi 1K, and that shit like I don't know. I took that shit and I spelled it out though, and then I was fucking with that, and then I started putting that on the tags and shit. Like all the shirts ain't really have 1,000 on it for real, but it was like the name of my shit. Like that's what the LLC and shit was under and shit. So.
Yeah. So how important is it, like explain how important it is to get an LLC like when it comes to this creative shit, because we got an LLC for the Apex brand and shit.
I'm not gonna even cap you down though, bro. Like, it's really not that important.
But I don't want to be the nigga that like say that and a motherfucker think like don't be on top of your shit though, because it is important. It's certain shit that is important for certain shit you trying to do, but like I don't know. I ain't really even necessarily in the lane of a motherfucker that's trying to strictly build a clothing line. That ain't even what I'm really doing. So like, for a motherfucker that's not strictly, now if you strictly got a clothing line and you like, you know, like I'm still doing this shit on my own. So it's at a level that I'm still managing and controlling it mostly myself.
Yeah.
But when you get to the point where you, for example, a motherfucker that's using the system, getting out loans and getting investments, and you got, now that's when you know what I'm saying, motherfuckers gonna be on your ass. You gotta report to somebody now.
Yeah.
So like, you gotta have your shit in order. And that's not to say I don't got my shit in order, but I move at more of my pace. So it's like, if you moving at your pace, then it's cool. If you ain't got your shit yet and you just doing your shit, like, as long as you doing your taxes and shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because it seems like the more you're, the more it builds, like, the more that it's gonna be, like, the bigger the company gets or the bigger the name gets, the more responsibility that comes with it, and the more up and up you gotta stay on top of, like your books and keeping shit, like making sure everything is accounted for and shit, because if not, then the IRS don't play.
That shit important for sure.
Yeah. So have you seen that stuff with they was talking about the people in San Francisco, they gonna give the black residents, I think it was like $5 million.
Like
the reparations, yeah. Yes, sir.
They approved some shit for it?
I think so. I don't know if they if they for sure approved it or not, but I've seen like the legislative branch in in Cali have been talking about it, and I think it's like a serious thing, but like, how do you think that? Do you think that would be? Would you? Because I've seen two arguments with this. Some people see that getting the reparations isn't gonna like help or change anything for like the black people, because they see the reparations as like, okay, if you give that to us, then we can't argue any more like political points or anything, or have any like
that's
agendas.
Exactly what they gonna see it is too.
Yeah, but other people are like, even if like, let's say, like, some people want to get land, like give us land instead of the money.
That's supposed to be included with them.
I mean, but it looks like it's going to be either or, You think that's a good move? Would you be satisfied with that?
I'm not satisfied. It ain't really nothing they could do for to satisfy me necessarily, like to make me like, to amend shit, like, all of that shit is like an apology. That's really all it is. Now, if motherfuckers start moving different though, like that'll be tight though. If motherfuckers I ain't even finna go that route, bro. Like that shit. With that, but bro, yeah. Like when you oppressing somebody, like the only thing I feel like to do that you're supposed to do, if you're trying to get them to forgive you, is to stop oppressing them. That's so like reparation. Giving land, give us that shit too, for real, off rip, but like the bigger picture though,
like what's gonna happen after type shit. Yeah, cause
and not to cut you off, but like you said, like a lot of people saying black people like not gonna do the right thing with the shit. Like I don't know if motherfuckers is in the right space right now to even receive that shit and do something with it. But I don't know. I feel like I feel like we need the shit regardless of motherfuckers ready for it or not. They owe us money. You know what I'm saying? Like, it don't really matter for real.
See, and then another part of that too is like, so I've seen some people, I don't know how the money is going to be divvied up, like how they're going to like establish whether your family came from slavery or if like your family like just like came from, let's say you came from South Africa, like within the lab, like your family came over like 30 years ago type shit. Like, I don't know how they're gonna like allocate the money, but I have seen, and it's sad too, because I hate to see our people fight our people, you know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, like, in a lot of cases, we are our own worst enemy, but at the same time, like, it's just all built off of so much, like, the back of so much pain and just so much, like, misunderstanding and shit, because in the black community, it is a running joke that, like Africans do not fuck with like Western like black people. You know what I'm saying?
Bro.
And that's how I feel too. Because any person that I've met that's from Africa, I've never felt they've treated me any other way. But other black people feel differently about that shit.
Yeah.
So do you think that those Africans deserve to get that money, or do you think it should be only for families who have been here since slavery, black people who've been here since slavery?
I feel like you gotta drop a black blood in you. That's from, if you gotta drop a black blood in you, I feel like I don't know though. But I'm not even a motherfucker to be asking for real. 'Cause, like, I don't really like. I got my opinions and shit. You know, like. But it probably, like, thinking about it for real, probably should be more so studied and shit, like who should receive it, because it is like some, I don't know, bro. I don't know.
I mean, you be watching NBA?
Hell nah, I ain't gonna lie, bro.
What? You don't even be watching the NBA?
Maybe I've been watching and rewatching hella shows and shit.
What shows you been on?
Breaking Bad and shit, Ozark.
I see with Ozark, I got into it, but I don't know, like it kind of fell off for me a little bit. But I've been seeing a lot of people say that it's definitely like it's still like a really good show. Like, what season are you on?
Shit, I done rewatched that shit a couple times, bro. That shit raw. Ozark hard. That shit over for real. I think it was like 4 or 5 one of the seasons.
I just really started getting into Snowfall. I started watching that shit. You ever seen that?
That's my shit. Oh my god, that shit come on tonight.
Yeah. Like I'm on season 5 right now, and it's, man, like I feel like with that show, it's like I want it to be as good as Breaking Bad, but it's telling a different story. Like that show, like Snowfall, has a lot of historic backing in it. You know what I'm saying? And it's telling a story of like what real people had to go through and how crack really got like implemented into our communities and shit. But it's just such a wild ass story, like. Yeah,
I fuck with Snowfall. I fuck with like the development of Franklin.
Mm-hmm.
Like I fuck with that shit heavy.
And Lee.
Yeah.
That's my dog.
His development's like even crazier than Franklin for real.
Yeah, but like you say you've been watching with Breaking Bad.
Yeah. That's my shit too, bro.
I introduced my girl to that like a few months back and shit. I was like, this is probably one of the best TV shows ever. Like no bullshit, no cap. That show.
I think I'll be watching a lot of shows now, and it be kind of like, it be seeming like they be soaking up game.
They be biting. But I mean, that's what the industry is, though. You know, like if people see some shit work, they gonna just repurpose it, repackage it, still the same shit, just different characters, a little bit of a different like storyline, but a lot of the core elements of what make that show, what makes that show good, most likely came from somebody else. You know.
Yeah, I've been rewatching The Wire too.
Oh, The Wire. I see that. I still gotta give that one some time because I watched that show for the first time back not last year, but the year before that.
Yeah.
Really good ass show. The way they did Michael B. Jordan at the end of season 1.
Yeah. That shit. I didn't think they was gonna do it that soon for real. I thought he was gonna really get to talent and really get niggas caught up for real. I thought he was more of a main character. They smoked him like it wasn't shit. Like that shit was just over.
But I feel like that. But that's what made it. Like I think that's what made it into a good show. Is like they gonna give you something you're not expecting and something that you may not even want. You know, but it had to happen because you seen like in the circumstance he was starting to work with the police and shit. So it was.
They was on him early too. They knew, and then dude seen him copping and shit. It's over. Show that shit hard though. The Wire, that's the shit.
And it's crazy too because I feel like watching those shows, like especially with that show, it's like you really want the criminals to win in a way. Like you really want Avon to really like, you know what I'm saying? Like why they fucking up his shit? You know what I'm saying? Like he's just doing his thing, but like and it shows kind of like how the cops always had like the upper hand on them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
You watch BMF?
I haven't. That's the only one I haven't started.
All of the Power's hard.
See, I was watching. I forgot how far I got into the first Power, and I ended up stopping. I think it was right after Tariq had killed the dude who killed his sister. Yeah. So I like got off of it after that. But it is a really good ass show though. It's a really good show. I just feel like I don't know. I think what had happened is like my ex shorty had kicked me off of the fucking HBO Max, so I was that shit was just over with.
You said over.
Yeah. That shit's cut.
Power hard. That shit. Bro, I just realized they got hella show. They got BMF. They got the Kanan shit, Tommy shit.
Shit, who would have knew 50 was that good of a fucking executive producer, bro? Again, he went into a whole different bag, but I feel like that dude has always been like a really he's been an entrepreneur from the jump. Like him, like Jay-Z, like niggas like that. Is like the hustling and shit they was doing was just kind of like it was like a peek into what they could really do and what they went on to do like after the fact, you know.
Yeah. Did he produce and Get Rich or Die Trying movie? He probably did. Looking back, like seeing what he do now, he probably did.
Honestly, probably. If he did, that would make a lot of sense as to why he's such a good like producer now.
That movie was crazy too. It's like
I mean, and it's really like it's only really a few talents that could kind of bridge that gap from music to television and like movies and shit, because like Childish Gambino, him with having Atlanta, you know, like that shit, it's telling like the real story of what it's like to really be like on the come up with the rap and shit, but it adds like the humor element, but it's always been in them, you know.
With Atlanta though, I only got into like the 3rd episode, bro. And, like,
of Atlanta.
I gotta rewatch it, bro. Like,
I think so. I think
more to it.
It might be one of them shows where it's like you gave it that first try and it wasn't really hitting like that, but I think it's worth giving a rewatch because like the first 2 seasons are funny as fuck. Nigga. Like they got one episode with Cat Williams. That one's funny as hell. I need to watch the new season though because they had my nigga Kevin Samuels on there before he passed away.
Damn.
Yeah. Speaking of which, he I think his birthday was just a couple days ago, and they was running a live stream.
Rest in peace, Kevin Samuels.
For real, man. Rest in peace, that dude. Cause he was. I used to always be watching his shit, his content, and like I feel like even though the black women hated him, that man was really. I think his heart was in the right place. I just don't think that. I mean, the delivery, like everybody hated the delivery except dudes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
he overdid it a little bit.
He did, but and that's the thing about social media and just being like entertainer.
That's the problem right there. Social media, the fact that it's like you don't do a consultation or whatever that shit was like with somebody like. You know, over Instagram Live, because now you got an audience, and now it's more than it got to be. Like, but them conversations was had in private, he wouldn't have the same tone, like type shit. But the message would be the same though.
It would be, and that's the thing about it is like, because even with having clickbait and shit like that, it's like when you're trying to be an entertainer, you're kind of walking the line of like what I'm willing to do to get more following and what I'm not. You know, and you have to like for example, you know, like with No Jumper, for instance, their platform is a part of the culture, but it's not like what they're willing to put out is anything that's gonna get it's content over everything, like COE, you know, and they live and die by it because at the end of the day, whether it's positive or negative, content's content.
Sure.
But at the same time, it's like, what is that come at? What is being expended because of this content? Like, what am I losing for making this? And I think a lot of times with Kevin Samuels, it's like because I used to watch it, like all his videos and shit, like for a while. Like I got back on him, like I got on him like 2 years ago, and like he used to try to make videos to help men, like try to see what it takes to be like a high value man, you know what I'm saying? And it was intended to be more educational, but he didn't start getting the attention until he started talking to women and like started talking more aggressively and talking down towards them. So people weren't paying attention when he was giving the good message, but when he was like making women like upset and just like causing all this mayhem over the socials and shit, that's when people were paying attention. And it sucks that it's like that, but
social media though, that shit. That shit a blessing, but it's like at the same time
it's a curse, man. I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like life after social media changed so drastically. Like, cause even think back to when we were kids before cell phones were really what they are today. Like, how many times have you gone driving and really seeing kids like riding bikes or outside playing or like doing like kids just
That
running
shit
around
crazy.
outside. Like that shit is it's damn near non-existent. You know, like you may see like that here and there, like that one random group of kids that are actually outside, but that life happens outside. Like life happens out in the world, not behind the computer screen. You know, and
I just seen some shit earlier. I forgot where I seen it, but it was saying like kids should be exposed to like nature and shit a lot more than they been exposed to it and shit. Cause if not, it's like some shit they got into the specifics and shit like how it could affect. Like they wouldn't be aware of their surroundings. They wouldn't be that on point as like an adult because they always was focused on being I think it was like excitement or some shit like like some shit like that, focusing on being like entertained all the time. That's what it said. Like they shouldn't be entertained 24/7. Like they should have time to where they just what I'm saying, existing and shit.
And I don't think that's realistic for life. You know, I don't think that's realistic for a person to constantly always be entertained by their surroundings. You know, and even because I used to sell phones, and like I remember being in the store, parents would come in and buy their like 3 or 4-year-old tablet just so the kid could be preoccupied with something. So they
that's why a lot of people get them. Oh God.
Yeah, I could attest to it. I'll sell them shit, but it's not healthy. I don't think that's like a healthy way of like kind of growing up. And because I mean, like even growing up, like think about it, like getting into your first fight or something. Like I got into my first fight when I was like maybe like 5 or 6 with someone that wasn't my brother. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And those moments kind of like let you know, like going home, your mama like, hell nah, you don't, you know what I'm saying? Like getting your ass about it, like that. Those moments kind of define what your adulthood like is like. And I don't know, like you got to get comfortable with confrontation and like the bad parts of what life can bring. Sure. And you won't ever experience that if you're just constantly sitting behind a phone screen, you know.
And I think it's a confidence thing, really. Like you got to like be confident in yourself at all times and shit. And that come with knowing yourself, and you can't really know yourself that well if you're not spending a lot of time to yourself. So like as a child and shit, I feel like that should be, like something that motherfuckers, I don't know though, I ain't got no kids and shit.
Nah, facts. I mean, I ain't got no kids, but at the same time, when I'm ready to have kids, I want to at least have a good understanding about the type of parent that I want to be, because I'm thankful that I didn't have a kid at a really early age, because I feel like it's hard to grow up. It's hard to raise somebody when you're still growing up, and you don't have all the answers, or you don't know like what to really expect. But you once you have a kid, you're in it. You know what I'm saying? You locked in regardless of if you want to be or not. That shit is tough.
That shit tight though, bro. Like I fuck with it. Like like that shit look dope as fuck. Like it's definitely something that I look forward to. Like, but just like I say, like in my 30s though. Definitely 30s for sure. When you think you gonna have your first kid?
Honestly, if I could pick, damn near 28 or 29, because by the time they turn like 20, I'll be like late 40s heading into my 50s, and I'll still like be somewhat active. Like I want to be like an active dad, you know what I'm saying? Sure. And because for me, like I'm really big on family. Like I never got to meet my dad. When it comes to a family dynamic, like I've always had my mom and my brother, and without those two, I don't know where I would be in life, but I see the value in them, but I also understand that if there was another figure there, if my dad was in my life, then he would have been able to help my mom through a lot of the bullshit that she had to go through, and learning that, and it kind of taught me a lot about just expectations of what a man is supposed to be, and not in a way where it's like, like I'm like this extra closed off hard ass nigga, you know what I'm saying? Like the way I see it is, I watched an interview one time, and it was of this black lady, and it was from damn near like the 70s, I think. But she was talking about how and it was like I think it was a debate in some type of auditorium, and they were having a debate about black men and black women. And this woman, she was saying, like, in the relationship, it's hard for her to have a man that goes to work, they show their best side of themselves at work to the people that they hate. They're going out into the world showing their best side of them to people that they don't know or that they don't like. But when they go back home, they're showing their worst side to the person that actually loves them, you know? And I thought about that shit, and it's like, anytime when I look at my partner, like, I never want them to feel negative emotions for me being around them, you know?
That's some real ass shit.
It was deep, you know? But even more so than that, it's like, with my mom, I learned that I never want to be put up by a woman, you know? Like, I want to have my own shit and bring somebody else into my shit. I never want to be going into somebody, like, a woman's space without putting in on it, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Because
I feel like that's just like
that's man shit, you know what I'm saying? But you see a lot of niggas who are willing to, you know what I'm saying? They may have a shorty that got her own setup, you know what I'm saying? She might have a kid or something. Next thing you know,
that shit be cool. Like, it be working for, you know what I'm saying?
It depends on the person.
Yeah.
It depends on the person. And I definitely agree with you. It's just that I've seen too many niggas, like, through having, like, these stepdads that, you know, these niggas are, hey man, can I marry your mama? Like, how y'all feel about me marrying your mama? Next thing I know, my mama kicking your ass out and you ain't got nowhere to stay. And now you on some creepy shit trying to creep up, you know, like, and it's like, through my experience, I can't speak for no other man, but through my experience, I could never let a woman put me up because I refuse to get put out of my own shit. You ain't putting me out my crib.
That's the thing, though, for real.
And it sets a different dynamic for the relationship too.
Yeah.
Like, cause
from here on out, it's static now. It's just like that. How do you solve that? Like,
you can't. But that's the whole thing. It's like you should have never been in the equation in the first place.
Right.
You ever tripped before? You ever taken any psychedelics?
Yeah. My trip was more interesting though. My shit wasn't like, I ain't finna say I had a bad trip, but my shit was just like, I don't know, it was just different.
Was it really introspective?
Yeah, it was for sure though.
I used to, back in the day, like when I was still in high school, like especially like junior year, like I used to like be tripping a lot. Like me and my homies, we used to, my plug used to stay next door to me and shit. So he always, and he was a cool ass dude. He was like a cool little hippie dude. He used to always have like crazy amounts of weed, like he had showed me one time like this Molly rock, and I don't do Molly or I don't take none of that shit. I just like smoking shit, but showed me the Molly rock, and it was like this like big like purplish like crystal and shit. And he was like, what, like, how much you think this shit costs? And I'm like,
what is it?
Yeah, like, I don't even know what it is. It looked like one of, you know what I'm saying, like one of these motherfuckers or something. But he was like, nah, man, this is like a $1,500 rock. And he was like, I can break this shit up and sell it for however much he said he was gonna sell it for or whatever. But bro used to be the plug on the psychedelics and shit. He always used to have crazy acid and crazy shrooms. And I don't know, like, I feel like that period of my life, it was like I was learning so much about myself and learning so much about like the world that at that point, before I started getting into psychedelics, I was not trying to go to school and shit. But after I did, I was like, I mean, shit, the niggas give me a free ride, like, I might as well. But
so what would you say is the biggest like difference between an acid trip and a shroom trip?
Biggest difference definitely is like, and I remember because my girl, she had never taken psychedelics before, so she had tripped with me one time, and I told her, because we were taking shrooms, I was like, see, this is really like, you're gonna gradually feel it. It's gonna feel like your stomach is doing something, you know what I'm saying? You're not gonna really get it, but then once you start feeling the visuals and shit, it's gonna feel like it's gonna go up and then it's gonna come down and then it's just gonna coast.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what my shit more so like. That's why I said my shit wasn't no bad trip. It was just like, it was my first trip, so like I didn't even really know what.
You don't know what to expect.
Yeah, so like I ain't really a motherfucker that did a lot of it to even know like you know a lot about the shit. For real. Like,
no, I feel you, and I mean like it's not, I don't think a normal person, like my experience was not the normal person's experience with psychedelics. For most people, I think it's like they try that shit maybe once or twice, maybe 3 times in their life, just on some situational, like it's just a vibe. But nah, like the difference between psychedelics, or the difference between acid and shrooms, excuse me, acid's gonna take you by the hand, you know, like, and walk you through it. But, or no, shrooms is gonna take you by the hand and walk you through it, but acid's gonna grab you by the shirt and pull you into that motherfucker. Like, it's gonna be a very, like, a very small margin of, like, you feeling like, oh shit, my stomach feel crazy, and then you like hella anxiety, like, damn, what the fuck is going on? Everything is moving and shit. My stomach hurting and shit. Like, I don't know how, like, cause off of acid, you feeling vibes. Like, off of psychedelics, you're gonna feel people's vibe more than you're feeling what they're saying, you know? And I had learned that cause being like, if you trip in a setting of like a lot of people, what people say and how they say it really matters. Cause I done seen motherfuckers get like into it over like just how a nigga says some shit. And that shit.
Cause that shit get, it's like off the shrooms, bro, everything get like, this shouldn't sound stupid, but like specific as hell. Like, shit get like, I don't know what word, it's a word to use other than specific. It get like, I don't know, specific. Everything get like,
I just feel like you're
detailed.
Yeah, you're in a heightened state of like being. So it's like, bro, you don't feel like yourself necessarily.
Nigga, I was hearing fucking the birds chirping. The shit sound like I'm in a fucking forest.
Like
I'm
you
not
outside
in a forest. I'm in the homie backyard. Like, I'm not. It ain't even no birds chirping for real. But like, the shit put me in a hole. Like, that shit really was tight for real.
Yeah.
Like, that shit.
And that's the fun part, is when you, after the initial come up, you hit your peak, and then you go down, and then when you're chilling, like, for the most part, when I'm at that chilling stage, I'm watching a movie or something, and then just thinking and shit. Like, the last time I had tripped, I had watched, I was actually, cause I watch a lot of anime and shit too. I was watching Attack on Titan, just thinking and shit, and I feel like I done solved a lot of, like, I done saved myself a lot of money and a lot of pain through not going through therapy, because I get my therapy during those trips, you know?
Real shit.
I usually,
that's what that shit feel like.
And I think it's more so, that's why people say it's like a spiritual thing. It's not like something that's like, that's not a drug, that you can't do that shit casually, like,
that
you
ain't
smoke
no
weed.
recreational shit.
No, not at all. Like, you will, like, I've seen people go crazy off that shit.
Turn into a shroom.
That ass, bro. That ass.
Shroom.
And the biggest thing, if anybody's watching this and you about to trip, the biggest thing is you always got to tell yourself it's just the drugs. Like, you got to tell yourself that, because if you cannot discern whether it's like the drugs or if it's really you feeling some type of crazy way, that's when niggas start to like go into a bad trip and end up like getting really fucked up.
You gotta have my homie C-Rob on here.
Yeah.
You do the Shroom Boys America. You gotta put their logo on this shit right there.
I got you send it.
This shit,
if you send it to me, I'll slap it on.
But yeah, they got that shit though. And my boys too. Okay, Shroom Boys. C-Rob, my boy Will.
I'll definitely have them on here, because I've had like people who are kind of like in that, like they're kind of like to plant their shit, you know what I'm saying? Really watch their shit grow and understand the whole science behind it. It's really interesting, because I didn't even know that like shrooms and shit had different strains. Like, it's like, it ain't just shrooms, you know what I'm saying? It's real shit. And that's why, like, that's why I understand like some of those EDM people who like get really caught up in just like the vibe with the shit and just being out at those like crazy festivals and stuff, because I used to have a homie. He had told me one time that it was the same dude that was my neighbor. We were talking, and he was like, yeah, like, I was like, damn, so how did you, because at the time, I had never trapped or anything, you know, so I was just asking him, like, so how did you really kind of, like, get your money to grow from this amount to this amount? Because I know that any of my friends that are trapping and shit, it's levels that come to the shit. And usually to get to the next level, you have to have kind of like a big break in a sense. Yeah. So he had told me what his big break was that he used to always go to Lollapalooza and shit. Yeah. So I forget which park out in Chicago where Lala's at, but it's always in the same park. So he was like, he had the idea that he was gonna buy a bunch of drugs, like whether it was, you know, Molly, ecstasy, weed, you know, like coke, whatever, you know. So he bought all this shit, put it into a big ass mason jar, went to wherever like park that Lala is ran through, buried that shit, and then when Lala happened, he went to that same spot where he buried that, unburied or dug that shit up, sold all that shit, and that was how he like really got into his shit. And I was like, damn. That's like
some narco shit.
That's some. I'm like, bro, you thinking about this shit on a different level.
That nigga different,
bro. And he was like,
how old is he, bro?
At the time, I think now he's like 30 something, like early 30s. But at the time when I knew him, he was like 27, 28. So he had already like bumped his head a couple times during this shit. But he was like, he said he pretty much had that shit down to a science.
That's
like,
what I'm saying. Dude, different. He's special with it.
Yeah, and that's the thing though. Like with trapping and shit, I feel like that's just kind of like natural selection. Like some people, it's meant for some people, but some niggas are not meant for that shit at all. And like those niggas that are either getting robbed, getting blocked up, you know what I'm saying? Like like all that negative shit that comes with it. That's why I kind of like stayed away from the shit, because it's like you're playing like a. On the good side, you know, you that nigga, you know, you got the girls, you got the money and shit, you may have a little car, some shit with it, you know what I'm saying? But on the back end of it, you got the police involved, you got niggas hating, you got your family hating, you got all this other extra shit that comes with it that it's not fun at all. And then the way you gotta move with the shit too.
Yeah, that's definitely a decision, for sure.
You have any favorite fashion designers? Since you in the scene?
I ain't gonna lie, I really fuck with Virgil shit. And it's crazy though, cause I don't want to sound like no bandwagon or nothing either, cause like I really just start looking with more like paying more attention to his shit like after he passed, which is kind of fucked up. You know how they say you don't get your flowers till you die, and it's like. It's damn near just on some, I don't know, and it's really how I always been. Like, I don't pay a lot of attention to a lot. I try, like, I intentionally don't pay attention to that world shit. Like, just
because you don't want to like pollute your own mind with they shit.
Not, you know, like, and not even necessarily say pollute, because they should be raw as fuck. Like, all of that shit, Virgil, all of the like niggas, like, you know, like that, you know what I'm talking about. But like, But like, yeah, I just want my shit to be like, I don't know. But it'd be crazy because like I come up with concepts and then like I go look at that shit after if I come up with some shit that's crazy that I really fuck with heavy, I'll just go look at other motherfuckers shit to make sure I ain't like doing no shit that looks similar, you know? It really be, but bro, I done did some shit like...
You fact-checking your shit.
Exactly, that's really what it be, but it's like, I done did that shit and really like came across shit that's like, wow, like down to a number on the logo, like I done seen it's somebody, like a big brand, like did the shit type. I was like, damn, that shit... But that shit tight though, because it's like, damn, we on the same wave. Like, we really...
I mean, I feel like that's reaffirmation that you on the right path.
Yeah.
You know, like, shit, if motherfuckers who are successful are doing the ideas that you're coming up with off the strength of just your own, you know, mental, then I think that, I mean, that's saying something good, if anything.
That shit raw as fuck.
So where's like the fashion shit taking you? Like, how, like, what does success look like for you? Like, now versus like you 10 years from now, like where is it taking you to this point and where are you trying to get it?
Shit, right now it done gave me a little like breathing space. I feel like that's what the shit did for me. Fashion, like it didn't help me financially be able to just breathe while I figure out like the next 10, you know what I'm saying? Because I like designing clothes, but I really just like designing, like, period. A lot of different, like, I be working on furniture designs, like, painting and shit, like I like placement and shit, you know, like curating. Like, I like a lot of different shit, so I feel like that's what fashion is gonna continue to do, though. It's just like fuel, whatever, creative. Any creative thing can be ran off some t-shirts, bro.
Yeah.
off rip, anything.
That's
like,
true.
In a quote down to somebody said, you know, could be slapped on a t-shirt and sold. So like,
yeah. So what was that initial investment like coming up with the money to really get this shit up and running? Like, was it hard, or do you think that it was like, was it hard relative to where you were at the time, or was it like something that anybody could really do? Because I know, like, when I say that, I know, like, on the music tip, because I used to like be trying to make music and shit. So getting the money to go to the studio and shit, and finding the time to actually like do the shit in a timely fashion used to be kind of like that was like the crux of it. That was like the main thing, is like the money and the time. So like for you, was that a factor when you first started, or was it more so like you were able to do it conveniently, it didn't cost too much, and you were able to, you didn't have to put in a lot of time, but the time you did put in translated to something positive? Like,
yeah, really what made it easy for me is like, I took a class on screen printing and shit in high school. So like, I understood how to screen print. So after I graduated and shit, like, I made my own screens and shit and was printing shit. So like, I feel like that's really what helped me starting out doing it myself. Cause I feel like if I would have started out trying to save up money to invest in one collection and drop that, it would have been a little different. Cause it's like, I don't know, it ain't as personal type shit. And ain't nothing wrong with that. Like, processes get more personal as they go along, so it really don't matter. But like, I feel like my shit started off a lot more like personal type shit with the clothes.
And more organic too.
Yeah, like type shit. Yeah, for sure.
Damn.
Fashion shit though, that shit, I ain't gonna lie, I be thinking about it a lot. Like, I really, like you were just saying, like 10 years, I really be thinking like I wanna, not even necessarily if it's just me, but me and some others, you know, just think of a way to use that to pass down to like the next generation that's coming up, or even the next generation after them. Just that skill of like, even if it's not clothing printing, but just being hands-on, making concepts that's in your mind, showing them the resources, because they're not as out of reach as we think they are, bro. Yeah. Like, it's easy, everything on the flow. Like, you get whatever you think about, you can really get.
And to that point too, I think a lot of times with anybody who's thought of like any creative like venture they want to get into, they think of all the obstacles before they think of the ways that they could, like, how easy it actually could
That's
be.
what school teaches us to think, though. Even the economics classes that's supposed to teach us more so about the opportunities, that shit really teaching us about a lot of the risk and a lot of the, like, that's what that's everything, though. The negative is, like, they teach us that early.
Yeah, I personally, even with running this podcast, like, I think that with this was something that I just jumped in the water with, you know, and I was learning what the obstacles were going to be as I came to them, you know, and I think that's a lot better. That's better than thinking of all the obstacles beforehand, because when you think about it beforehand, that's going to stop you from making a move at all. You know, like, that shit will make you not even want to get into it, because you think of all these, and I think that's by design. Like, humans think of all the ways some shit could go wrong, but usually that shit is like the least likely shit to happen. You know what I'm saying? But
real talk.
Nah, but that's real though. Like, I think that a lot of, and I feel like this is something that I've always wanted to do, especially with people around here. Like, it's so many people around here who are really kind of doing their thing, like,
talented.
Standing on their own too, and are really good at what they do. And it's just not somebody who's trying to shed a light on this shit. So I hope that through this podcast, I could show the world that Northwest Indiana is the most unlikely place that you think that somebody's gonna fucking come up.
I ain't gonna lie, for real.
This shit is so far off
from
the
the
map.
outside looking in. Like, I wouldn't expect to come out here and see none of the talent, for real. But like, everywhere you go out here though, it's somebody that you wouldn't even know though, but they talented. Like, it's a lot of talented people out here, bro. But I feel like the spotlight slowly, like, not even the spotlight, but like the time though is like coming up for this area. Like it's just gonna have to come because that shit, like you seen the Detroit wave, bro. Like you seen how they shit. We literally watched they shit like go from them just getting together and like really working, and now look at these niggas. Now like all these niggas shining.
Yeah.
And that's literally what's happening right now. Like,
yeah, and it's definitely such thing as like missing your beat, like not like wanting to capitalize on something. Cause like with this shit, I was talking to Simi about this shit when we were when we were doing his podcast, and it's like you don't want to be the odd man out in this situation because I personally truly believe in the talent that's in this area, or else I wouldn't even be like doing this shit, you know what I'm saying? But through seeing what my brother and his friends were able to cultivate and kind of create shows me that it's definitely enough resources and enough ways out here to do this shit. It's like whether you're looking in the right spaces. And
niggas turn nothing into something, bro. Like that's really what's going on.
Straight up.
And that shit not as hard as it sound or look, though.
It isn't, and it doesn't come with all the shine and all the, like, it doesn't look like what you think it looks like, but being able to pay your bills, you got a little money to still stay fresh, you could, you know what I'm saying, still go on dates, you know, spend time with your family, go on vacations, like, for me, the way I look at this shit is if I could be making, and I got a certain number in my head, but if I could be making a livable wage where I could work on my own time, do it the way that I want to do it, still have time for my family and my friends, and you know, still feel good in what I'm doing, I can do that. But it's so, and I think a lot of that too comes from, especially with this area, like what success looks like to most people is like going to work at the mill. You know what I'm saying? And ain't nothing wrong with working at the mill. Like, nothing's wrong with working a regular day job. I actually want people who work day jobs to be on this platform because sometimes those opportunities,
that shit hard,
bro. Because sometimes those opportunities are what changes someone's life. And if somebody could come on here and show people, like, you know, like for me, for instance, when I used to work for AT&T, and I was, you know, riding around all around this area selling phones to people and shit. And the type of money you make, bro, like I was making more money than my mom was, you know. And seeing those actual checks, it's like that shit is crazy. That shit could change your life. So it's not the music, the entertainment, all this shit, you know, it's literally for show. Like this is a show, you know, but that doesn't have to be what someone else wants. Like you don't have to have not everybody could be Drake, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And it's not meant to be that way because if everybody was him, then he wouldn't be as great as he is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just like we were saying earlier, how like you wouldn't know the good without the bad type of shit. Like,
you don't appreciate the good without the bad. Damn, so how does your family feel? Like, how your mama be feeling? Like seeing her son able to like really do this shit, like, cause you really on your shit, bro. Like the shit you've been doing. Like I've heard your name throughout like the years of me being in the creative scene, but I'm glad that we've actually been able to like sit down and like get acquainted because like I want to be in touch with all the motherfuckers that are really doing some shit because I know eventually like shit 5-10 years from now your shit is gonna be national.
Shit. Like, you know, like, that's what I'm saying, bro. Like, all of this shit rising together, like, it's crazy just to watch this shit, like, because I've been thinking about that. And really what just made me start thinking about shit more in the moment is after the Ye documentary dropped. And then think about how many people, like, that shit made me think about out here, bro. Like,
that shit happened in Chicago.
Yeah.
Chicago and New York, but
it's a lot of them same situations out here though. It's a lot of gays out, you know, but you know, not just niggas though. Like a lot of girls, talented, like all type of people just out here really talented. So, shit, bro, that shit just be crazy to just think like shit starts somewhere. So you literally gotta be in the moment while you in that shit.
Yeah.
Because looking back on it, you don't want to be the motherfucker that's looking back on some shit like, damn, I thought I was suffering these times. I should have been enjoying the process. You know, so it's just like real shit.
And that it's beauty in the struggle. It is beauty in the struggle, and it's sometimes like we get so caught up in just being solo in this life that you forget that like what's really like every day, anytime you're releasing something, that's further pushing what we're talking about. You know what I'm saying? Anytime I drop a new video, that's further pushing what we're talking about. And that's why I'm big on the work. Do the work, man. Do the fucking work, because if you ain't doing the work, bro, there's no way. It's no way that I would really, like you said, there's no way I would appreciate whatever this podcast is gonna bring to me if I didn't have to be in this apartment. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like really, like out the mud. You know what I'm saying? Damn.
Yeah, bro.
That's real. That's real. I mean, do you have anything else you want to say to the cam, to the people?
Shit, man.
You got some advice for the kids?
Shit. Man, I don't really even know what to say, man. Peace, man. For real. Peace, man.
Hey,
Real talk.
you heard it here first.